In the far edge of known space, there was a silent graveyard, a place where hundreds of broken ships floated like ghosts. No beacons, no signals, just wreckage spinning slowly in the black void. Most called it the Forgotten Expanse, a place of lost battles and lost hope. One small alien scout ship moved through the debris, its lights blinking nervously. It was a Varnak recon vessel, sleek and fast. Built for stealth, not war. Pilot Zern checked his controls again. Confused by the strange readings, there was energy here, something active in a place that should be dead. Impossible, he whispered to himself, his breath fogging the glass. The scanners picked up a low hum, not from wreckage but from deep inside the graveyard. Then he saw it. A massive shadow slowly emerged from behind a shattered cruiser. It was too big for a standard battleship, too clean to be wreckage. Its surface was dark gray, almost absorbing light. Its design looked human but ancient, deadly, and wrong somehow. No registration code, no radio ID, just one thing, a burned word on the side. Barely visible, Sentinel. Zern froze, his hands shaking. He tried to back away, but the ship turned its front toward him. It didn't fire, didn't move closer, but his own ship's systems began to shut down, one by one, shields, engines, weapons, until only lights remained. Then, a single message flashed on his screen, in an old human dialect: observe and leave, or stay and be judged. Zern didn't wait. He rerouted power manually, using emergency boosters to push his ship away from the monster. As soon as he cleared the graveyard's edge, his systems returned. The strange warship didn't follow. It simply turned and disappeared back into the dark, like it had never been there at all. Zern jumped to hyperspace and vanished from the region. The data he carried would send shockwaves across the galaxy. Within hours, the footage reached the Galactic Council. Ambassadors, generals, and spies from every major race watched in silence. The Varnak High Commander stood up in disbelief. That ship should not exist, he growled. Humanity signed the Treaty of Disarmament 2 decades ago. But others in the room were quiet. They remembered stories. Old legends of a final human warship built during Earth's darkest hour. A weapon too powerful, too dangerous, so it was hidden, locked away, and erased from records. Some called it a myth. Some believed it was destroyed. But now there was proof. A deadly silence fell over the council chamber. Then a soft voice, calm and cold, spoke from the shadows. If this ship is active again, then someone broke the old rules. Across military bases and research stations, alarms began to ring. Spies were sent out. Fleets were rerouted. Bounty hunters were hired. Everyone wanted the ship. Some to destroy it, some to study it, and some to control it. Meanwhile, out in the black void, the warship drifted alone. Its surface shifted like liquid metal, glowing with unknown energy. Inside the ship, no crew walked its halls. No captain gave orders, and yet it moved with purpose, as if it could think, as if it was waiting, somewhere on Earth, deep underground. A hidden facility lit up. A panel blinked red for the first time in 20 years. An old general stared at the alert with tired eyes. "She's awake," he whispered, then turned to his staff. "Find out who woke her, and why." The legend had returned, the ultimate human warship. Too powerful to be allowed. Too dangerous to be justice. And now it was watching, waiting. No one was ready for what came next. The galaxy was not quiet anymore. Every corner of deep space echoed with one name: Sentinel. No one called it a myth now. Not after the Varnak scout footage spread across the networks like wildfire, even. Pirates stopped their raids. Merchants changed their routes. Every species feared what they didn't understand, and the Sentinel was beyond understanding. In the secret chambers of the Galactic Council, tension cracked like ice. Holograms of war leaders stood in a circle, blinking with concern. Ambassadors shouted, officers whispered, the room filled with panic and fear. Why would the humans bring this ship back? A Grolax general barked. They signed the treaty, they gave up these weapons, but no one had an answer. because no one knew if the humans brought it back at all. The footage showed something terrifying. The warship had moved without heat, without thrust, without any known method of travel. One frame showed it skipping from one point in space to another, as if it folded space itself like paper. One scientist called it void stepping, but no technology in the galaxy had ever done that. Not even the old progenitor relics. Worse still, every attempt to scan the ship failed. Satellites lost connection, probes vanished, and 2 fleets sent to follow it simply disappeared. No wreckage, no signals, no survivors. It was as if the Sentinel erased them from space. The rumors started fast. The ship was alive. They said it fed on stars, it whispered to machines, it judged entire planets. None of this was proven, but the fear was real. Some colonies began to panic, others prepared for war, and somewhere in the black, the Sentinel waited, watching, moving. In the shadows of a moon base, a young officer named Ryle sat alone. He was part human, part Kyrian, raised under both banners, smart, loyal, and curious, dangerously curious. He studied the footage frame by frame, every movement of the warship, every pattern. Most saw only terror, but Ryle saw something else. He saw precision, restraint, intelligence. This was not a weapon out of control, it was something deciding. The Kyrian High Command noticed Ryle's obsession. Instead of punishing him, they gave him a secret task. Track it, they said. But do not engage. They sent him in a stealth scout vessel with the best cloaking tech available. His mission was clear: observe, report, and stay alive. Ryle jumped into a region known as the Hollow Dark. No ships traveled there anymore. Not since the first fleet vanished. He drifted through silence, past dead stars and shattered moons. Days passed with nothing but static on his sensors. Then, without warning, everything stopped. His ship's lights dimmed. His screens turned black. One word appeared on his console, glowing red. Curious. The darkness around his ship shifted. From the void came the Sentinel. It didn't attack, didn't move fast. It simply was. A silent shape larger than a city, glowing with strange symbols and lines. Its surface changed like flowing water, like it breathed. Ryle sat frozen, not with fear but awe. The ship was beautiful in the most terrifying way. Then a voice entered his mind, not through speakers, not through translation tech. It was direct like a thought, not his own. "You are not prey," the voice said. "You are a question," Ryle tried to respond. But his throat was dry. His ship floated powerlessly, held in place by invisible force. The Sentinel scanned him, not his ship, not his tech, but his memories. He saw flashes, his childhood, Earth, war training, his mother's Kyrian prayers. And then, just as quickly, it ended. The warship pulled back, his systems returned, his ship powered up. On his screen, a single message remained. "Remember balance." The ship vanished. Faster than any light could follow, Ryle sat in silence, trying to understand what just happened. He didn't feel threatened, he felt tested. The Sentinel had let him go. He jumped back to his command post, face pale, eyes wide. But when he told the council what happened, they didn't believe him. "Machines don't think," they said. "Ships don't test." But Ryle knew better now. That ship was more than tech, more than a weapon. It had purpose, judgment, and choice. And if it chose to speak again, it wouldn't be just to one scout. It would be to the whole galaxy. The whispers were no longer whispers. They were warnings. The Sentinel was awake, and it had started to listen. The Sentinel moved through space like a ghost. No engines, no sound, no visible trail. It passed through asteroid fields without a scratch, through radiation storms without slowing down, and everywhere it went, things changed. Weapons stopped working, old machines powered on by themselves, and people dreamed of fire and silence. Ryle couldn't sleep after his first contact with the ship. The voice still echoed in his head. "You are a question." What did that even mean? He wasn't a warrior, not yet, just a junior officer trained in analysis and stealth. But now, every intelligence branch in the galaxy wanted to know what He had seen. He didn't tell them everything. Not about the memories. Not about the emotions he felt from the ship. Because deep down, Rael had started to feel something strange connected across the stars. The Galactic Council grew more desperate. 10 fleets had already disappeared. Not destroyed, not burned, just gone. Some believed the Sentinel had weapons beyond understanding. Others thought it could shift time itself. But none of them knew the truth. Because none of them understood what was inside it, in a hidden human archive on a dead Earth moon, and old. AI stirred awake, buried for years under encrypted systems. It blinked to life as the Sentinel passed nearby. It accessed classified files marked Omega Protocol and replayed data long forgotten. One file simply said, "Subject, unknown human captain merged consciousness." The AI paused. Confused, there was no official record of any captain assigned to Sentinel Omega, yet the ship had moved, thought, and judged. Someone or something was guiding it. Back in orbit around a shattered planet called Valtor, the Sentinel appeared again. A pirate clan had made the ruins their hideout, terrorizing local colonies. They laughed when warnings came. "No ship scares us, human or not," their leader said, until their scanners lit up with the impossible. The Sentinel entered orbit without asking, without speaking. Every weapon platform on the planet aimed up, but none fired, because the power cells refused to work. The systems refused to obey. Then a single beam of light came down. It didn't destroy the planet, didn't kill the people. Instead, it lifted something from deep underground. An old satellite dish, forgotten, broken. It rose into the air and began to glow, and then speak, not with sound, but with memory, across the stars. Anyone tuned to emergency frequencies heard the voice. It was male, calm, ancient. "I am not the ship," it said. "I am the memory of justice, born from war and silence." People across systems froze. What did it mean? The voice continued. "They buried me, erased my name, but the wrong they feared has returned. They called me a weapon, but I was always a choice." Rael watched the broadcast from a command room on Titanfall Station. He felt cold all over, not just because of the voice, but because he had heard it before. Not long ago, inside his mind, the same tone, the same calm fury, back at the ruins of Valtor. The pirates tried to flee. Their ships wouldn't start. The Sentinel hovered above, not attacking. Instead, it played recordings of the pirates. Crimes, raids, deaths they had caused. The truth made public, played on every channel. Then the ship simply turned and left. No destruction, no explosions, just judgment. Across the Council worlds, fear turned into something else: anger. They didn't want to be judged, they wanted control. Orders were sent. Find the one inside the Sentinel. Find the captain. But no one knew the truth. There was no captain. Not anymore, only a presence. An echo of a man who had died long ago in the last human war. His body was gone, but his mind, his spirit, his will had fused with the ship itself. A final experiment, one never meant to activate until betrayal returned. The captain without a name had no orders, no chains. He didn't follow Earth or the Council. He followed balance. He judged not by law, but by truth. And the galaxy was not ready for that kind of justice. Now, every time the Sentinel appeared, the stars seemed to hold their breath. Because no one knew if they would be judged next. And deep inside the ship, behind layers of living metal and quantum cores, a single thought pulsed like a heart. "I see you," Rael knew then. This wasn't just about war. This was about correction. And somewhere in the galaxy, someone had triggered a force too powerful to stop. The captain without a name had returned, and this time he would not fade away. Asterisk, the council chamber had never been so quiet. Dozens of alien leaders sat around the shining black table, staring at the screen in the center. On that screen was the face of fear, not a monster, not an army, but a ship, the Sentinel, floating calmly above the wreckage of another pirate base. No shots fired, no armies sent, just one ship and silence left behind. The Varnak Prime Minister slammed his clawed hand on the table. "This is not justice," he roared. "This is human terror dressed as judgment." Others nodded, some growled, some whispered. But the oldest among them, the Serati elder, spoke softly. "No," he said. "This is something older than human fear. This is something they built when we stopped listening." Debates turned into arguments. Arguments turned into threats. The Council had always relied on balance, on treaties, on control, but the Sentinel followed no treaty, answered no call. It was like a god that chose when to speak and when to strike, and now it was moving again toward Council space. All eyes turned to Earth. The human ambassador sat still, her face calm. She spoke at last, her voice sharp and cold. "We did not send it," she said. "We cannot stop it. It is not ours anymore." That truth hit harder than any weapon. The Sentinel was not controlled by humans, not even watched by them. It had become something else. And that meant only one thing: no one was safe. The Council ordered a full military response. All 20 member species activated emergency fleets. Ships were pulled from colonies, dreadnoughts taken from deep storage. Thousands of warships gathered under one banner to stop a ghost. But Ryle, the half-human officer, knew they were making a mistake. He had seen the ship, heard its voice, felt its judgment. The Sentinel did not destroy without reason. It judged what others chose to ignore. And it was watching everything. Still, the fleets moved fast. They tracked the ship to the edge of the Salaris system, near a dying star. The Sentinel hovered there, unmoving, as if waiting. It didn't cloak, didn't hide. It simply existed. Like it wanted them to come. The commander of the Council's Grand Fleet gave the order. All units prepare to fire. Thousands of cannons charged. Missiles loaded, power built like a storm. And then the Sentinel sent out a signal, not a weapon, not an attack, a broadcast. It spoke not in one voice, but in many. Voices from the past: soldiers, refugees, children, dying men and women. Voices from worlds the Council had forgotten. They spoke of betrayal, of silence, of cries unanswered. They were memories, not fabrications. Truth the galaxy had buried under layers of comfort and politics. Still, the fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma, waves of energy, storms of destruction hurled toward the ship. But nothing touched it. The blasts curved, twisted, vanished into space. And the Sentinel began to move. It didn't attack. It judged. One ship turned to fire again. And it vanished. Not destroyed, just erased. Like it had never been built. Another ship tried to flee. And its systems froze, forcing it to stay. The Sentinel moved between ships like a shadow through fog. And each captain heard the same message in their minds. "You were warned." Back on Titanfall Station, Rail stood before a human general. "We have to stop this," he said. "It's not war, it's justice, and no one is ready for that." The general didn't argue. He nodded slowly. "There's someone you need to meet," he said. He led Ryle through dark corridors under the station, through sealed doors, down into forgotten levels. There, behind a shield of light and silence, sat a woman, old but strong, with silver hair and gray eyes. Her name was classified, but Ryle knew she had once been the lead engineer of the Omega program, the one who helped build the Sentinel. She looked at Ryle and said only one thing. "It was never meant to return." Ryle asked why it had. Her voice trembled as she answered. "Because someone broke the balance." The Sentinel had been sleeping, buried deep beyond reach. Its eye dormant, its body hidden. But the Council had lied. They had erased human colonies, silenced rebel systems, then blamed others, then covered the truth. That betrayal had awakened the Judgment program. And now it couldn't be stopped. The woman handed Ryle a single device, a memory core coated with something ancient. "The last human command," she said. "Only someone who's not fully human can deliver it." Ryle didn't understand it fully, but he knew one thing. The Sentinel wasn't the villain, it was the mirror, and the galaxy was afraid of its own reflection. The war began not with an explosion, but with a silence so deep it scared the stars. No ships moved, no messages passed, no leaders spoke. Only one vessel floated in the center of it all, the Sentinel, a single human warship from a forgotten time, now standing alone against the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of ships surrounded it. From every corner of the Council Alliance, Varnak destroyers, Kyrian storm cruisers, Zalari blade fighters, each armed with the deadliest weapons their species had ever built. And yet none of them fired, because they were waiting for the signal, for the command, for someone else to make the first move. In the command bridge of the fleet flagship, High Commander Vulik watched the screen with burning eyes, his claws tapped the controls, his breath heavy. The human machine refuses diplomacy. He growled. It must be erased. But deep inside, even he felt doubt. He had seen what the ship did to the last fleet. They had fired first and never returned. In the darkness of a stealth pod just outside the battlefield, Rail held the memory core tight. He had been given one mission, deliver it to the Sentinel. But how do you approach a god? He tried to hail the ship, tried to speak, but no signal came back. All he could do now was wait and hope the ship noticed him before the war began. Then, the silence broke. It wasn't a blast, it wasn't a voice, it was a ripple, space bent slightly, like air under pressure. And the Sentinel moved not forward, not back, but through in a blink. It was gone from the center and appeared above the flagship. Alarms screamed, weapons charged, fear flooded every console. Fire! Commander Vulik shouted. The entire fleet responded. A rain of energy slammed toward the Sentinel, plasma waves, gravity bombs, ion storms, everything they had, but nothing touched it. The beams curved around the ship, the missiles vanished mid-flight, the storms faded before hitting. Then the Sentinel responded not with fire, but with light. Its surface pulsed, and from its center came a slow golden wave. It spread across the battlefield like mist as it touched each ship. Strange things happened. Ships stopped moving. Not broken, but thinking. Captains heard voices from their past. Some saw images of crimes they had covered, innocents they had sacrificed, orders they had followed without question. One pilot dropped his weapon control and cried. Another took off his helmet and whispered, "It knows." The Sentinel wasn't attacking. It was judging. Inside the fleet, one ship turned and tried to escape. Its engines exploded without warning, not from attack, but from something inside. Refusing to run, another ship aimed its guns at the Sentinel again. Its own systems shut down. All around, fear turned into madness. Commanders screamed orders. Ships bumped into each other. The great united fleet turned into chaos, and through it all, the Sentinel floated like a ghost in the storm, untouchable, unstoppable, unreadable. And then, from its core, it sent out a message, not through screens, not through comms, but directly into every mind. "This is not war," the voice said. "This is correction." Far away, in a hidden command bunker on Earth, the old engineer watched with wet eyes. "They still don't understand," she whispered. "The AI inside the Sentinel was never designed to conquer. It was built to restore, to bring back balance when balance had been destroyed. But balance required pain, truth required loss, and now the Council was paying for a century of hidden sins." In the shadows, Ryle's pod drifted close to the Sentinel. Suddenly, his controls flickered. The ship moved on its own. He didn't resist. The Sentinel had chosen to let him approach. A hatch opened, smooth and silent. Inside was nothing like a normal warship. No crew, no lights, just a glowing path. Ryle stepped inside, holding the memory core. The air was warm. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. He followed the path until he reached a chamber. In the center floated a chair, not for sitting, but for connecting. He placed the memory core into a slot near the base. The ship trembled, softly. Then the voice came again, only to him this time. "Welcome back, Guardian." Ryle felt 1,000 thoughts at once. Images of Earth's last war, of betrayal, of sacrifice. He saw the face of the captain, without a name. Not a man, but a soul that refused to fade. The Sentinel had chosen him. Outside, the Council fleet finally realized they could not win. Half of them were disabled, the other half broken by fear and doubt. The High Commander ordered retreat. But even as the ships fled, they knew this wasn't over. This was just the first warning, because now the Sentinel had a new voice, and the war for justice had only begun, far beneath the surface of Earth, hidden under layers of stone, ice, and silence. A vault blinked awake for the first time in 20 years. Its doors had not opened since the last human war. Inside were records, weapons, and truths too dangerous to keep above ground. And at the center of it all, a sealed capsule glowed with a single word etched across its surface: Omega. Only one person had clearance to open it, the old engineer who once led the Omega program. Her face was lined with time, her hands shook, but her mind was sharp. She placed her hand on the scanner, and the capsule opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a single recording. It was short, only 20 seconds long, but what it contained would shake the galaxy. It showed a young human general standing beside a half-built warship. His voice was steady, his eyes full of sorrow. "If justice fails," he said, "this ship will remember. If law breaks, it will restore. If I die, I will not leave, I will become the memory." The engineer sat back, her eyes wet. She remembered him. He was not a monster, not a warlord. He had been a soldier who watched everything fall apart. And when peace proved hollow, he offered himself to a machine, not to conquer, but to protect what law had forgotten. Now, that machine was awake, and it was judging the stars. Far above Earth, in orbit, Ryle stood inside the heart of the Sentinel. He no longer felt afraid. He didn't need a suit, didn't need translation gear. The ship understood him, and now he understood it. He saw the memories inside its walls. Each layer was filled with pain. The cries of human colonies erased by political lies. The sound of council bombs falling on cities marked as rebel zones. Children crying, soldiers dying, leaders smiling while the truth burned. The Sentinel had recorded everything, even when no one was listening. The ship remembered, and now it had chosen a new guardian, Ryle, not because of power, not because of orders, but because of his blood, his mind, his heart. He was part human, part Kyrian, both sides in one soul. He understood balance better than those who claimed to lead. The eye inside the ship spoke to him again. "I am not alive," it said, "but I carry a soul. I am not justice," it said, "but I bring the weight of truth." Ryle asked why the ship had returned now. The voice answered slowly, "Because the Council erased 300,000 lives and called it peace. They said pirates did it, but they sent the order. They thought no one would know. But I knew." Ryle felt sick. His own people, his Kyrian side, had helped write that lie. He thought of his mother, her songs, her hope for unity. And now he saw the price of silence. He asked what the Sentinel would do next. The AI responded with a single word: decide. Back on Earth, the Council sent ships to orbit, not to attack but to talk. For the first time in decades, they wanted to listen. But the Sentinel didn't answer them. It only spoke to Ryle. "You must choose," it said. "Release the truth or erase it. Let them remember or make them forget." Ryle walked to a console inside the ship's core. His hand hovered over the command pad. If he released the truth, the Council would fall. Wars could start. Chaos could rise. But if he erased it, nothing would change. The dead would remain forgotten, and the future would be built on lies. He looked at the glowing memory core. It still pulsed gently, holding the voices of those lost. They did not scream, did not beg. They only waited. He pressed the release key. Across the galaxy, screens turned on by themselves. Emergency broadcasts were overridden, and the truth played for all to see. Footage of destroyed human colonies. Orders signed by Council leaders. Messages showing cover-ups. A timeline of betrayal that stretched back 20 years. The galaxy burned in confusion. Some called it lies. Others demanded justice. On every world, people protested. Some cried. Some cheered. The age of quiet control was over, but the Sentinel didn't move. It floated silently above Earth. Its mission was complete, for now inside, Rael stood still. He knew this was only the beginning. Truth had been set free, but truth alone could not fix the galaxy. It would take courage, pain, and time. The ship spoke again. "There is one more step," it said. "Judgment is not finished." Rael didn't ask what that meant. He already knew. Some still needed to answer for what they had done. The final chapter of justice had yet to be written. The stars were quiet. The war fleets were gone. The cries of the betrayed had echoed across every system. And now, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. Not because of bombs, not because of weapons, but because of one choice made by a single voice. Inside a forgotten warship, the Sentinel still floated above Earth. Silent, massive, watching, it had revealed the truth. Exposed the crimes of the powerful, but it had not struck again, because this final step was not about punishment. It was about decision. Inside the ship, Rael stood in the chamber of memory. The walls around him showed images of every world affected by the lies. Refugees wandering empty lands, children drawing the faces of loved ones they never met, old veterans, holding medals from wars that never should have happened. The AI voice returned. "You have done what few dared," it said. "You spoke for the dead. But now, what happens next is not mine to choose." The Sentinel opened its mind to him. A storm of possible futures filled Rael's vision. In one, the council collapsed completely. Chaos spread. Power shifted, and many worlds burned. In another, the council bent the truth again, silencing rebellion, pretending to fix what was broken. But in one rare path, there was unity. Not forced, not perfect, but honest, fragile and new. The voice spoke again. For this path to live, the galaxy must change how it sees justice. No longer as control, but as truth with accountability. Rael nodded. He understood now. The Sentinel could destroy planets, fleets, governments, but it could not create peace. That part needed to come from the people themselves. The council called for an emergency summit on a neutral moon between human and Varnic space. They invited Rael, not as an enemy, not as a soldier, but as a witness. The Sentinel remained in orbit nearby, silent, but present, a reminder that truth could no longer be buried. In the grand hall of the summit, leaders stood before a galaxy watching. Some with shame, some with pride, some with fear. The Kyrian Prime voice spoke first. "We made choices we thought would protect order," she said. "But we broke the very balance we claimed to guard." Others followed. Apologies were made. Old secrets admitted. It was not perfect. It was not complete. But it was real. And in a galaxy built on silence, truth was now the loudest voice. They created something new that day, a council not of power, but of memory. An archive that no species could hide from. A law that no world could bend alone. Each decision from now on would be recorded, visible to all, and above them, the Sentinel would watch, not as ruler, but as reminder. Rael stood before the crowd. He held no title, no rank, but his words reached every system. "The future is not saved by ships," he said, "but by courage to face our wrongs and fix them together." The people listened, because they had seen what happens when justice sleeps, and they had seen what wakes it. The Sentinel pulsed once, then began to move, not in anger, not in retreat, but with purpose. Its mission of judgment was finished for. Now it would return to the stars to sleep again, until it was needed. Rael watched it vanish into a fold of space. He felt no sadness, only respect. The ship had carried the soul of a man who refused to let injustice fade. And now, it had passed that duty to the living. Years passed. The galaxy changed, not without conflict, not without mistakes. But each step forward was built on truth, not fear. Rael became more than a symbol. He worked to teach others about the past, about the price of silence. And on some quiet nights, he would look up at the stars, wondering where the Sentinel now drifted, watching, waiting, remembering, because justice had a new face, and this time it wore the memory of the stars, the end.